Panning around with the Gaudi building behind me, I find this pretty little parklet, for lack of a better term, but with nicely maintained flowers. A man working on it. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. And here a pretty little fountain. And not sure what this large building here is, but this is the Gaudi building, or Bastine, I think it's called, Casa de Bastine. And this is the building, and he characterized his architecture by using local materials. So as Steve points out, the gray slate roof is an indigenous stone, as is the rest. And apparently this rough surface, and I'll get in closer, was designed to capture the snow and more dramatically dramatize, excuse the redundancy, the design of the building. So guess what? It snows here. A little more Gaudi detail. I don't know what function those things perform. So I think I'll sit down with this gentleman on this bench. Oh my gosh, that's Atoni Gaudi himself. It is. What's he working on? He's working on a drawing, perhaps of this building. How redundant, having designed it. But here he sits nevertheless, outside of this building for eternity, admiring it. Love the style. It's now a bank and there's no access to it. I don't know what it originally was. And he refuses to speak for some reason this morning. And over the entrance is St. George and the dragon. It's more like a crocodile that he's killing. However, if you're in his position, it's probably a dragon. I don't know if this simple stained glass was his idea or not, but since it's not, the gate is not closed, I'm going to go look inside. Get a little flavor, although I don't know how much of this is just modern redesign of the interior. I'm thinking much the latter. Although, what are those cylinders on the right side duplicated again on the left? It looks like they could be elevators, but that doesn't seem logical. It seems to have a center post running down the middle of it. I don't know if Gaudi built this defensive fence or not, and this gate, but they certainly look intimidating. Now at the base of Calle Ancha, I'll just pan so we can look at first the contrast between that building we looked at a moment ago and this one. I think from this point on, it becomes, as Steve suggests, urban sprawl at its usual ugliness. So we'll turn around and walk back up Calle Ancha. So right next to this building is this Palacio de los Guzmanes. We'll go inside and look since the door's open until I get thrown out. Okay, so now we're in the Palacio, built in the 16th century, during the Renaissance style, if you will, with the galleries up on top and the stained glass, all that original. All the decoration there is of Renaissance, and if we took a closer look at it, we could appreciate that even more. Let me get up a little bit closer to some of these and take a look at one like right here. And all of these, I'm sure, represent important stories that the family felt represented itself. I'm just panning down through these arches. Notice that stairway over there. It looks like it has a fountain. Here would be the family well. And there, the symbol of the family is a bucket that symbolizes the container of the family's wealth or possessions, and the snakes coming out on either side represent that they are both protectors of those assets as well as probably protectors of the community. Notice the gargoyles up on top, and she indicates, although we're not quite sure exactly how, but they create a unique effect when it rains, bringing the water together and perhaps shooting it out in some fashion. This stone is interesting because apparently it's Celtic, and it was found in the mountains nearby, was used as part of a grave site. But when you look at it, you can realize that this was some considerable effort to create this. It's rather thin. It has that hole. It has that design. What was its purpose? Was it the cap of the tomb, or what? I don't know. There's the stairway going up, and you can imagine the people who have walked up this stairway, their importance. Apparently, the bishop of the family at the time is who decided to construct this palace for his family. There we get a little bit of a look at how it was. But remember, things were designed to impress also.
It was closed. Originally it was open.
Ah, so the town council closed it?
The town council ordered to close it because Leon is cold, usually
Sure.
12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And there are typical clothes of some villages of Leon.
That's nice.
Yes, in these windows. From the 10th to 12th centuries, and this was the same patron of the kingdom and now of the province. It's called Virgen del Camino, because the sanctuary is on the way to Santiago.
See.
Those boats,
Probably this was 19th century woodwork. You can see how this was formally, and then it's enclosed because it gets cold here. And this is a stained glass of the bishop who actually built this palace. This is a castle I should eventually see. And this was done by a Spanish painter, well known from here, who also lived in New York during the Spanish Civil War. But it has a clearly distinctive and more interesting style than these others. This is the square right across the street from Gaudi's building, where that little garden was I showed you. This is the local police building, and the police presence here is pretty substantial in the tourist area at the restaurant I was at, which is not close to the real guts of the tourist activity. There must have been 12 visits by police going by in cars, vans. This is a very pretty cafe that I found some tortilla de patatas. A collection of coffee grinders.